Okay, so my name is Kira. I'm going to switch things up a little bit. Today I will be speaking about kinds of consciousness as found in humans, invertebrates, and AI. So to begin with consciousness in humans, currently my research is focused on brain injured patients with coma or disorders of consciousness, DOCs, and as you've heard throughout the past two talks, this field is presently very active and much progress has been made in the science of coma and DOCs, though we still have a long way to go in understanding and treating these conditions. So what would be some of the key takeaways from the past 30 years of consciousness research in these patients? Put very simply, human consciousness appears to be supported by a fine balance of information integration and differentiation in the brain. This balance is more nuanced than centralized integrated processing, as when this is taken to an extreme, people also lose consciousness. For example, brain injury causing loss of consciousness often results in reduced neural activity in cortical, thalamic, and striatal brain networks. However, too much integration between these regions would result in a seizure, as seen in epileptic patients, in which consciousness is often transiently lost. Furthermore, consciousness does not simply exist in greater or lesser degrees, such as a healthy awake human who has a greater level of consciousness than a DOC patient. Rather, there are also different kinds of consciousness. To take Thomas Nagel's famous example, subjective experience in a healthy neurotypical human will qualitatively differ from the kind of subjective experience that a bat may have. Humans and bats have different sensory systems interfacing with the outside world, different organization of their nervous system, and different forms of information processing, yielding a subjective experience which differs in kind. So through my experience studying the brain of unresponsive patients in the intensive care unit, I have come to realize how often people overlook signs of agency and consciousness in their own species, let alone others. This has caused me to become increasingly curious about the subjective experience of animals, particularly invertebrates. So for the remainder of my presentation, I will be using the terminology sentience rather than consciousness. Here, sentience is defined as the capacity for subjective experience, and importantly, it does not imply all the extra baggage that comes with the term consciousness, such as higher order thought or introspection.
Yes.
So there are many interesting invertebrates which show signs of sentience, such as bees, ants, lobsters, crabs, crayfish, and cuttlefish, and squid. However, for the sake of time, I will focus on one particular invertebrate, the octopus. As a first point of evidence for octopus sentience, these animals can adaptively use and create tools. So for example, the veined octopus has been observed carrying around two halves of a coconut shell, and when approached by a potential predator, they bring the two halves together to assemble a shelter as depicted in this photo. Importantly, these coconut shells were carried around for future use, suggesting some degree of forethought or planning. Furthermore, the common blanket octopus has been found to carry around Physlacia tentacle fragments in their suckers as a weapon. These weapons were organized in an orderly fashion in each row of suckers on the octopus's dorsal arms, again suggesting some degree of planning and thought on behalf of the octopus. And finally, octopus are known to use various artificial tools and laboratory settings to complete puzzles or mazes for a reward. So octopuses can adaptively use tools, and this is quite impressive, but as Catherine brought up, which I really appreciate, we should be careful not to conflate intelligence with sentience. Is there evidence supporting the notion that octopuses have the capacity to experience emotions, say boredom? Indeed, aquariums in New Zealand and Germany have reported that some of their octopuses have taken to using their siphons to shoot water at aquarium lights while no one is looking. For example, the 6-month-old octopus named Otto had been caught shooting water at his overhead spotlight after climbing up the side of his tank and effectively short-circuited the building's electrical system. It's true, look it up. There are many stories about it. Some captive octopuses have also been observed playing with empty pill bottles. When exposed to the novel object, rather than trying to say eat the pill bottles, they appear to make a game. They use their siphons to create water jets and bounce the bottle back and forth on the stream of water coming from the tank's intake valve. And finally, evidence suggests that octopuses also recognize individuals, both conspecifics and other species. They are known to behave differently and consistently towards different people. For example, octopuses have been reported to repeatedly shoot water jets at select people they have apparently taken a disliking to. So we have seen that octopuses are intelligent, can adaptively use novel tools for play or as tools, and have the capacity for boredom. Is there any evidence that they recognize their self as distinct from others? In other words, do they show capacity for theory of mind? Well, the mimic octopus has earned its name through its ability to alter its coloring, skin texture, and bodily shape to mimic not only the appearance, but also the behavior of other species, including jellyfish, sea snakes, and crabs. And amazingly, this is done in a context-specific manner. For example, when surrounded by damselfish, the octopus selectively takes on the shape of their predator, a sea snake. Here we go. A video of it in action, just briefly. I don't think that's on my end. And there is also evidence that common octopuses are capable of social learning. So, for example, Borelli and colleagues had octopuses watch a conspecific explore a black plexiglass box, open a hidden drawer, explore its contents, and pull out a crab, food. The observer octopuses were then exposed to the black box, and 29 out of the 55 common octopuses tested were able to successfully solve the puzzle after watching the conspecific. The final argument for sentience in octopuses that I will present today concerns sleep. Recent studies have shown that not only do octopuses sleep, but they experience distinct quiet and active sleep stages. So quiet sleep is characterized by behavioral quiescence, closed pupils, and uniformly pale skin, while active sleep is characterized by dynamic changes in skin color and texture, rapid eye movements, and an increased arousal threshold. Active sleep stages, on average, occur in short 40 to 60-second bouts, and the interval between bouts depends on water temperature. So here's a short video of an octopus in a quiet sleep stage. So you can see it in the bottom left-hand corner there. There's not much happening behaviorally, just some respiration while it's napping. Yeah, just some breathing. And then an octopus during active sleep. So you can see the color changes, the changes in texture, a lot more movement. So behaviorally, it's quite identifiable. And then Pophale and colleagues took this further and implanted microelectrodes to record local field potentials, or LFPs, from octopuses during sleep and wakefulness. During quiet sleep, they observed the presence of LFP oscillations, which resembled mammalian sleep spindles in both frequency and duration. They also found that LFP activity was highly correlated between states of wakefulness and active sleep. And that LFP activity further in the superior frontal and ventricle lobes, which are associated with learning and memory in the octopus, was highest during active sleep. Thus, octopuses show sleep stages which are similar to that in mammals in both their behavioral and neural signatures. Octopuses are a particularly interesting case study on sentience since they directly counter many anthropocentric assumptions people hold regarding the prerequisites for consciousness. For example, Octopuses have a largely decentralized nervous system with 2/3 of their neurons found in their arms, and consequently, their arms are semi-autonomous. For example, the arm of an octopus can perform a surprising repertoire of stereotype coordinated movements after being severed from the rest of their body, such as withdrawing from a noxious stimuli. Given the mounting evidence that octopuses have some form of subjective experience and that they have a decentralized nervous system, this has led to some interesting academic debates about whether the subjective experience of an octopus is similarly decentralized, in stark contrast to the unitary stream of consciousness that humans often report. So it is also important to note that invertebrates such as the octopus have a divergent evolutionary history from us vertebrates. Phylogenetically, we went our separate ways about 500 to 600 million years ago. Thus, it would be quite remarkable if, through an independent evolutionary pathway, invertebrates also evolved a form of sentience. Research on invertebrate cognition and sentience is sparse. However, given the research which has been done, octopuses are the strongest candidate for invertebrate sentience identified thus far. As the neuroscientist Emil Seth popularly put it, the mind of an octopus is an independently created evolutionary experiment, as close to the mind of an alien as we are likely to encounter on this planet. Finally, we will explore some possibilities surrounding sentience in AI. As a cool example, photographed here is the Ocean One robot from Stanford's robotics lab, which is designed to dive at depths and in conditions too dangerous for human divers. Ocean One relays haptic or touch-based feedback to their human pilots, has stereoscopic vision, and can communicate with human divers using hand gestures. Speaking from the perspective of a neuroscientist who is interested in identifying signs of consciousness in brain-injured humans and non-human animals, I believe that both fields are highly relevant to questions surrounding sentience in AI. Humans and octopuses provide two dramatically different models for how sentience may emerge using divergent body plans and evolutionary histories. I think these different models are important to keep in mind when considering AI, as it helps push us outside of our bias to anthropomorphize AI, to assume that a sentient machine will present in a manner similar to a human kind of consciousness. I do not necessarily believe that this will be the case, as we would be dealing with sentience from computer hardware and not a biological substrate. And on the port of hardware, I would like to slightly push back on a purely functionalist view of mind, such as Charlotte's thought experiment. I think it is important to consider the possibility that different forms of hardware may pragmatically restrain the capabilities of a given software. Even if, in theory, we could create a human kind of consciousness in a machine by connecting all of the components in the correct manner, there may still be, in practice, limitations to the emergence of consciousness due to differences in physical substrates. So as an example, the physics of computer hardware versus biological matter may lead to incompatible processing speeds, as seen in quantum computing. Our warm and wet biology is incompatible with the chilled superconductors used in quantum computers. Again, this could lead to a novel kind of consciousness. It doesn't necessarily rule it out. So finally, I would like to end on the note that so far, the science of consciousness suggests that we have much more in common with other animals than we do ChatGPT. The idea of sentience in AI is very exciting and worthy of serious ethical considerations. However, I also encourage you all to equally consider how you are treating other species. Please be kind to those who you share this earth with, human or otherwise. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, guys. We're gonna have a 5 minute break, 10 minutes break, and after the questions, and then we're gonna be back for the last panel, last thing of the conference, which will be about the academia and industry synergy. Now we have time for questions.
Do octopus tentacles have like different personality? Like if you're such a they develop biases?
I don't know. Personality is a very loaded term. They definitely have semi-autonomous capabilities. Like, I think the strongest case comes from the actual severing of the arm, but given animal ethics, there are more updated experiments in which they are isolating, say, touch cues to the arm and not the centralized nervous system. And the tentacles seem to be able to explore or like take in different capabilities, different forms of information. I've never heard of a case where the tentacles are per se like actively countering the interest of the species as a whole, as of the organism as a whole. So I guess it depends on what you mean by personality. They have quite remarkable capabilities, but I wouldn't go as far as to say they have different personalities.
For break.